Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to this session on the Internet of Senses. My name is Cristina Pandrea, and I work in a research department in Ericsson Research that is called Consumer and Industry Lab. And the topic for today is the latest 10 Hot Consumer Trends Report 2030, looking at the Internet of Senses. I hope you found a comfortable seat. Please enjoy, take a walk, have lunch, or whatever you find comfortable doing while listening, because this presentation is meant to inspire you and make you ponder about the future. But allow me firstly to introduce Consumer Lab, who we are and what we're doing within Ericsson. We are an organization with a quite unusual task. We are here to investigate the world beyond networks and operator customers and to drive research around end consumers like you and me. And we achieve this by using different research methods and tools under qualitative and quantitative research methods. But also we complement our insights with external data sources. Our department was founded in 1995 in Ericsson, and since then we've been talking to more than 2.6 million respondents. Our studies are representative for more than 1.1 billion people in more than 50 countries. So the breadth of the research that we're doing at Consumer Lab is world-class, along with the depth and the topic of it, because not many research companies in the world look into the ICT and mobile networks for consumers. This is actually quite unique to our department and to our research agenda. So what type of projects are we running at Consumer Lab? You can see here, I just took a snapshot of the plan for 2020. And you can see here that our reports tackle a wide area of topics in the ICT space. The green blocks represents a project, a 5G for Consumer series, where we investigate the expectations and experience consumers have over 5G. But we also try to understand what worked well and what didn't work from a market strategy, pricing strategy, and bundling strategy perspective, so that we could guide our operator customers when they think about launching 5G. So this is a more tactical piece, a more tactical report, the 5G series. Then we also have the more laser focused type of reports, the blue boxes. These are focused on themes that are relevant for Ericsson at different points in time. So for example, when Ericsson launched the eSIM management system, we went out and talked to consumers, trying to understand what are the use cases and use places where they would actually use eSIM and if it's relevant to them. And then, of course, we have the orange blocks, the topic of today, the 10 hot consumer trends. And in this report that we launch each year around December, we talk to early adopters in 10 major cities around the world. And we try to discover the latest and greatest in terms of aspirations and wishes that people have from technologies, but also disappointments and fears that go through their minds. And this year, Consumer Lab celebrates 25 years of existence, a quarter of a century. So that's why the 10 Hot Consumer Trends 2030 is a more of a celebratory edition. So the 2030 report embodies a vision of a complex system of internet capabilities that will allow us to experience the internet not only through vision and hearing, but we'll be also able to smell, touch, and feel, taste, and literally blend the digital with. Okay. So I'll go through this report. Of course, a lot of the themes are very thought-provoking, But if at any point you become skeptical about what I'm saying, just think about how with every mobile generation, our lives and digital experience have changed and how fast that happened. So what you see here is how the mobile communications looked 40, 30, 20, and 10 years ago. And during my lifetime alone, the way people worked, socialized, and kept in touch with each other has changed remarkably. I remember my first phone that could take pictures. It was a tiny Motorola clap phone, and I thought it was the most amazing thing ever. And then the big screens of the smartphone generation that began with the iPhone changed not only the user interface, so we no longer had buttons, but we had these touch screens, but also the way we texted, took and stored pictures, and also how we shared them with the others. And this is key to the Internet of Senses, because the simple fact of being able to share what we're able to see was groundbreaking and changed the definition of what a social life is for us. So if vision can do so much, what will happen when we're able to share more than just audio and visual experiences? Like right now, we share pictures, videos, listen to music, or talk to each other using the smartphone. But what about the other senses? What about smell and taste and touch? How are we going to be able to share this digitally? What do consumers imagine we'll be able to do on the internet 10 years from now? And the big question is, what will be the main user interface we will be using? Is it still going to be the smartphone? Or do we need a better device to do all that? This report in particular covers all these questions, and I will go through each sense one by one, introducing on the one hand the vision for 2030 and what early adopters think they will be capable to do in 10 years from now. And on the other hand, try to ground the insights into the current technological developments. So let's see together, what's already out there that could help us on this journey towards the Internet of Senses. So I hope the plan sounds right. Let's just jump straight into it, and let's start with the site. The vision for 2030 is that we will be living in a merged reality, where the physical and the virtual realities will be interchangeable and hardly distinguishable. The journey towards merged reality is quite long. So when you think about the activities that we do today, all of us watch videos and look at pictures. Some of us use filters. Some of us use augmented reality applications, like the IKEA furniture app or like Pokemon Go, the game. But very few of us use virtual reality, and no one has yet experienced what merged reality is. So what is merged reality? Merged reality entails that the line between what's real and what's virtual will be blurred, and we won't be able to make meaningful distinctions between the two. So the digital overlays of information and objects will be so realistic and vivid that they will just seem real to us. And I just want to give you an example to make it more tangible. Just think about Pokemon Go today. What if instead of Pokemon Go, you would have a virtual zoo in public areas? So you could go watch the animals, interact with them, feed them, care for them, and you would probably get the same emotional reward as if they were real. And this is a virtual space that we would all share. It's not something that just one person could see, but actually is what everyone in a particular space and here in the shopping mall could see. Such applications and services are already being tested, but the challenge, of course, is the user interface right now. because having to use a smartphone to see all these animals is quite a hassle, and it defeats the purpose of what merged reality actually is. So what do we need from a device perspective then to make this a reality? Well, most probably we would need a similar impactful paradigm shift as the smartphone was in 2007. We would need the thin, light, sleek glass, and that will most probably be the iconic device of 2030. It will allow us to see the same content that we see today on the smartphones. And all of this will be augmented without having to pick up our phones from the pockets. Of course, many companies are battling to come up with the latest and greatest form factors that would make the augmented reality glass a reality. But this nut seems pretty hard to crack. Apple, for one, they have postponed the launch of the so expected AR glass that they have promised to launch already in 2020. So we don't really know when Apple is finally going to launch this device. Then just the other day, I read about Bose that has abandoned their project dedicated to AR glasses, to augmented reality glasses, something that other companies had to do as well, because the technologies involved into making this a reality are not just about the hardware as such, the hardware piece, but is an ecosystem play. You have to look at the content that you put there, the technology from a hardware perspective, and then the network. All of these need to come together to make it a reality. An even more daring vision for 2030 is the widespread use of AR contact lenses. And of course, the challenges in the hardware development space are exciting to talk about, but from an Ericsson perspective, a more productive question when it comes to merged reality is, where does the computation happen? And what is the mobile network infrastructure that is going to sustain such a widespread use of augmented reality glasses in the future? So what you see here is a snapshot from one of my favorite series on Netflix. I always like to refer to this because I think it's vivid and make things more tangible. So if you haven't seen this series, I highly recommend it. This is an episode called No Selective, and where characters here are able to see each other's ratings on social media using augmented reality contact lenses in real time. So when we look at this, just imagine how the information has to flow in order for this to happen. And this here I'm focusing on network connectivity, right? The system has to retrieve information from a live active platform. It has to process it. It has to scan the environment all over again and display the information on top of the lens, be it a VR contact lens or be it a glass as such. So all of this process, end-to-end solution, requires powerful computation that has to be placed at the very edge of the networks. And the challenge is real. Just, we've heard already some complaints about 5G smartphones heating up because of the use of high data volumes at very high speeds. So this type of issues will be even more relevant when the device will sit on our face and even on our eyeball. So these are questions that we are investigating within Ericsson research, trying to push the computational power closer to the edge as possible without causing other type of issues. So we see that even vision, something we use a lot on the internet, has a long way to go to become completely digitalized. But what about hearing? Let's go to the next sense. In the future, the sounds, say consumers, will be highly different from what we know today. Hearing aids and earbuds, headphones, headsets will help us alter the sound as we wish. So early adopters already today no longer accept exposure to unwanted ambient sounds. They, of course, use noise canceling devices, but they want to go a step further. They want to benefit from selective hearing or from frequency enhancements. So walking down the street, in the future, you would be able to prioritize birds chirping over the noise of traffic. Or if you can't hear what your friend is saying, you could damp down other sounds around you to just focus on the voice of the person that you're talking to. The interesting question here is, how does the hearing tech look like today? Well, for one, the bulky, large headphones have become tinier and tinier, and wireless, and again tinier. But not just this, they have also become smarter. Tiny devices such as the earbuds to the end here can be worn the entire night. They're extremely comfortable, and they help you block unwanted sounds during the night for a very good sleep. Some projects are also looking into a very hot topic and into a very hot use case, which is real-time translations. So this would mean that the earbud can pick a speech in whatever language, say French, for example, and automatically translate the voice for the receiver so that the receiver could hear the speech in English, not in French. And whenever we do research and ask consumers, this is the one use case that always comes on top, and is no wonder why. Like, with such a hearing aid, you'd be able to speak all languages of the world and never need to learn a new language again. So it's a very compelling type of application. The road to making this a reality is quite bumpy because of the instant translation that needs to be performed, and the difference between how different languages are structured. Some begin with the action, with the verb. The sentences begin with the verb, and the causality is presented at the end, whereas in other language, this is twisted all the way around. So it's difficult to actually synchronize the speech translation. But there are companies looking into it, and most probably by 2030, we will be having real-time translation devices as well. Now, the future of smell. This is the third sense from the map. The future of smell seems to be, bright, to say the least. None of the online experiences today involve scent. But by 2030, early adopters and consumers believe that the smell will be a key part of the internet. I don't know if you remember, but years ago on April Fools, Google came up with a campaign entitled "Smelling is Believing." And they advertised how you could upload and download smells from the internet. So you could ask Google, "Hi Google, what is this smell?" Or "How does a rose smell like?" And you would be able to just pick that smell by swiping on the screen of your smartphone and just feel it. And I don't know about you, if you at least remember it, but for me at least, I believed back then that it may be possible, and it seemed so natural to me. I mean, why not? Like, if I want to smell a flower blossom, why can't I do that digitally the same way I look at the picture? This April Fool's joke will, though, one day be a reality. Say consumers, the internet of 2030 will be a place where you could browse images and videos, but also smells and flavors and haptics. And it will also serve as a huge social platform for sharing all these senses. And if we move to a very nearby and the complementary sense we have, which is the taste, The vision is similar here in this regard as well. Our taste buds are able to produce very powerful personal experience, just like the smell. We associate taste with places we visited, with people, with different dishes, with cultures. And consumers believe that these are going to be digitalized as well. We will be able to share taste with others, taste dishes we never tried before, and rate restaurants even before we go there for a real meal. But both the olfactory and gustatory technologies, so the smell and the taste technologies, are severely underdeveloped. And I would put this on the fact that there are no clear business models to actually develop these technologies. In the space of olfactory technologies, so the smell, companies are working around special attachments meant to enhance the virtual reality experiences of people. And here on the left-hand side, you see a user interacting with the virtual object and at the same time inhaling the associated smells. I guess we can all agree that this doesn't look quite comfortable, and for sure is not something that we would wear out in public. I mean, even the bulky headsets, VR headsets, are not something people are comfortable using today, least to say that you will have to put one more attachment to it and look like a living robot. And on the right-hand side here, you see a device that generates electrical signals that help stimulate the tongue to simulate all the primary tastes: sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. And this is a very interesting type of technology because it could be used towards not just entertainment and sharing and social platforms, but it could also be used towards other means. So just to give you an example, the most trivial application that the researchers are looking at right now is to how you could incorporate such electrical signals in coffee or tea mugs to simulate sweetness, so the taste of sweet. This way, people that want to reduce the sugar intake can do that successfully without compromising on the taste of their beverage. So put whatever you want in the cup, and whatever coffee you want in the cup, and it will taste sweet because of the electrical signals that are embedded on the edge of the cup. So those, these steps might seem small and hardly commercially available today, but both smell and taste are moving towards being digitalized, and we will see more and more of these technologies coming up in the future. Another sense that we are all hyped about and is seeing a lot of development is the haptics. And today, even if you don't realize it necessarily, we have a lot of haptic feedback coming from the smartphone. So when you superimpose an emoji, or when you select an object, or when you swipe, or when your phone vibrates, one way or another, these are haptics feedbacks that you receive from the smartphone. In the future, consumers anticipate that this will grow and expand tremendously, and we'll be able to touch anything, anywhere, completely digital. Just imagine how it would disrupt the way we shop things online. Right now, you just see the image of an object from different sides, but imagine being able to feel the fabric of a certain clothing, or feel the size and volume and all the different ways we evaluate the product. And remember that haptics are more complicated than it seems. We need to feel texture, hardness, temperature as well, weight, is very important for many products. Shape and volume. So these are all haptics we are able to sense with our hands. And just the vibration of the phone won't be enough. So what are the developments in this space then? Well, there are some. The haptic gloves and the haptic suits are already here. The simplest way you could simulate electrical signals for haptics is by using a wristband, but all of those senses would be a lot more enhanced with the help of gloves and full suits. This will help simulate body sensations that are synchronous with other virtual environments. And of course, this could be used for entertainment and gaming. So for example, you play a game, a first shooter perspective game, and you feel the hits that you are taking. But there are plenty of other use cases in the health sector as well. And I can give you an example of what Ericsson has done last year and demonstrated at Mobile World Congress 2019. The Ericsson team presented a haptic glove in the context of an emergency case. So the scenario was that an ambulance doesn't necessarily need to have a healthcare professional on board. It could be just it could be just me in the ambulance picking people up, that have called for an ambulance. During the time that it takes for the ambulance to reach the hospital, with the help of a glove, me as a person in the ambulance, I am in constant touch and in constant communication with the health professional from the hospital. The doctor tells me what am I supposed to do with the glove, and while I evaluate the situation, all this haptic feedback is transferred directly to the doctor in the hospital. So he knows exactly what's happening without him being there on the spot. And the case that we lifted at Mobile World Congress last year for this is the importance of a good and reliable type of connectivity, because the entire procedure requires a reliable and consistent connectivity all throughout the ride, because drops in signal or a lot of jitter could alter the entire handling and actually do more harm than good. So there are developments in this space for sure. The end use case and the most prolific use case of such devices and of such costumes is still yet to be decided by the market, so to speak. But the future, again, is bright, and I like the perspective of being able to get more immersed when using different types of content. So now we've gone through all of the senses. The question is, what is going to be the user interface? Are we still going to use the smartphone? Are we still going to be glued to the smartphone? And I'll just give you a simple example, and let's just think about it. We have these cool AR glasses. We discussed about AR glasses before, augmented reality glasses. And we want the glasses to show us the way to a certain location, right? So we are on the street and we want to go somewhere. How are we going to search for that location? Are we going to pull out our smartphones from the pockets and just type in the location and do it the way we do it today? Most certainly not, because this would definitely defeat the purpose of having the glasses in the first place. Another idea could be to activate Google Assistant and say, or a voice assistant and say, "Hi, Google, just take me to location X." But this is definitely not a secure measure, and it's quite chaotic. Just imagine 100 people on a train station talking to their Google Assistants and asking for directions. This is definitely not the way to go. So what is it then? What's the user interface? I'll give you the answer. The user interface is most probably going to be our brain. The vision, the 2030 vision of the Internet of Senses points towards the brain being the user interface. Just think of different commands and they will happen. You won't need the touch screen to use your smartphone anymore. So you could simply think about opening a certain application and it will turn on. You can simply think of unlocking the screen and it will unlock. And this type of brain commands are already being explored by companies. And here I put an example of Neuralink, Elon Musk's startup. This ambitious startup is looking exactly into this brain-based user interface. Electrodes are placed underneath the skull, and they measure the brain signals and waves that are needed to execute commands or to push forward commands. And step by step in their laboratories, subjects teach their brain to control objects just by thinking of them. So there is quite a lot of development in this space as well, but there are tricky challenges that need to be bypassed. Because for one, our brains are extremely complex and very tricky to decipher. And I put here just an example of, one of the most trivial challenges that we have with using the brain as a user interface. There are two pictures on the screen. The left-hand side picture shows the brain scan of a professional Tetris player while playing Tetris. And you can see that there is quite low brain activity. Only some areas of the brain are being activated. And on the right-hand side, you see a picture with a brain scan of a person that is playing Tetris for the first time. So you see that there's a lot more activity and the brain is using more resources to play the game because it's being done for the first time. Now, the question is, what is going to happen with the brain scan and the brain activity of the beginner after playing Tetris for 30 days in a row? Will we see more activity or we will see less activity? You might probably have guessed. The scan shows that after playing Tetris 30 days in a row, the brain activity has lowered. And so what's interesting here is not just that the brain activity of the professional Tetris player differs significantly from the beginner Tetris player, but also that the brain of just one person develops over time and shows different patterns. So if you would try to decode how the brain of a certain person is working today, it most certainly not going to be useful a month from now, 6 months from now, or a year from now, because our brains develop and are always in a dynamic kind of state. So this is, just one of the trivial challenges that are out there. And even in Ericsson, we have people working with brain user interfaces, writing IPRs and looking into the challenges of this world. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that it's not just hardware that will enable the future of Internet of Senses. There definitely has to be innovation in device manufacturing and even energy efficiency, because whenever the computational power increases, or the data volumes, or the data speeds, or the amount of data that is needed to perform a certain activity increases, the energy becomes a challenge. The devices could heat up, or they could consume too much to actually be sustainable. Then also, when I think you might have pondered already throughout the presentation what would happen with data privacy and data security. So the way forward is to look into how the regulators are going to work around these aspects, similar to how GDPR has managed the data security for internet users in Europe. It is important that we see more happening in this space, so that the technology gap between what's happening in technology versus the regulations doesn't become too wide to actually maneuver and control going forward. And the companies and the governments that will gain the trust of consumers will be those that will have proper regulations in place and proper rules around how personal data is being managed. Another very important aspect, and sometimes disregarded, is the need for reinventing the business models. The cornerstone business model of the current social platforms and the social world that we're living into is the advertisement monetization model. So you see ads. As a user, you don't have to pay for the platform. You just have to consume ads because someone else pays for your usage. But this is not going to be sustainable on the very, very long term. And there have to be new ways to think about how to make money out of certain technologies without relying completely on ads. And then, of course, what matters most for us in Ericsson are the new technology journeys needed in terms of radio networks and cloud computing. So I highlighted here the main focus areas for our customer operators as well. And this is a topic that we raise with them whenever we discuss about the Internet of Senses, because the way the architecture of the radio networks today don't have the capability to move so close to the edge. And you know, we need more development in that area to make augmented reality mobile and to make virtual reality mobile. And just as an example of what we do at Ericsson, from a technology journey perspective, here you see a radio antenna, a 2 meters long radio antenna placed on a radio tower. This is not certainly so close to the edge, but this is a proof of concept that Ericsson Research has launched last year. What you see is the radio of the future. It's this, you know, tape that is the radio of the future, and it is called radio stripe. And what our colleagues are showing here is a band, a tape that has Ethernet cables placed on the bottom of it, from which antennas activating different spectrum bands are coming out and placed. The purpose of this proof of concept project was to distribute the radio antennas as much as possible. So this is the ultimate distribution strategy that you could actually use, and the applications are you know, literally infinite. Here you see a train station, a metro station, where you have the bands, the radio stripes placed on the bottom and on the top of the station. They could, of course, be placed also on dense city streets where you need a lot of capacity to handle all the data traffic coming from a dense urban area. And my favorite use case example is how you could use these radio stripes in places where you don't want to have ugly and huge and visually bothering type of antennas. And so, for example, here in Vatican, you could certainly not place radio antennas on top of the church, but you could for sure hide these radio stripes behind different sculptures and architecture pieces. So the road towards the Internet of Senses is bumpy. You could read more about all of these insights on our report that is available on Ericsson.com. You just search there for the Internet of Senses and the 10 Hot Consumer Trends 2030, and you can see the different aspects and challenges that are posed from a technology, from a network perspective, and also from a societal perspective as well. Because as we move together into the future, it's not just going to be how, we're not going to be worried just about how we use devices and our senses on the internet, but also how does that change the social interactions? How does that change the way we think about each other? How does that change the way we share information, and how much we want to be private or not? So there are a lot of societal aspects to think about as well. And I encourage you to go to the report, find out more, but also watch Visionary series as the Black Mirror, the one I mentioned, to just stir up and get some thought-provoking information from them as well. That was all from my side. Hope you have a good day going forward. And yeah, thank you for today. Thank you for joining the session.